The third and final presidential debate of the 2012 US presidential election campaign concluded early this morning Sri Lankan time, handing a definite edge to US President Barack Obama over his rival Republican candidate, Governor Mitt Romney. The two presidential candidates, seated at a table with moderator Bob Schiffer of CBS at the Lynn University in Florida, tackled issues related solely to foreign policy. Newsfirst Mahina Bongso and Ramesh Irugal Bandara, who are in Charlotte, North Carolina, have more on the third and final debate.
This debate focused, as we all know, on foreign policy, and the debate opened with a question of the Libya consulate attack, which saw both candidates really firing up. This question was followed up with the situation in Syria and also the Egyptian turmoil and the situation in China and how Chinese relations with the US are. In addition, the moderator Bob Schiffer of CBS also threw hypothetical questions at the two candidates who had to answer these hypothetical questions. So let's now go and take a look at the excerpts of the third presidential debate between President Barack Obama and Republican candidate Governor Mitt Romney.
What we're seeing is a pretty dramatic reversal in the kind of hopes we had for that region. And of course, the greatest threat of all is Iran, 4 years closer to a nuclear weapon. And we're going to have to recognize that we have to do as the president's done. I congratulate him on taking out Osama bin Laden and going after the leadership in al-Qaeda. But we can't kill our way out of this mess.
Well, my first job as Commander-in-Chief, Bob, is to keep the American people safe. And that's what we've done over the last 4 years. We ended the war in Iraq, refocused our attention on those who actually killed us on 9/11. And as a consequence, al-Qaeda's core leadership has been decimated. Governor Romney, I'm glad that you agree that we have been successful in going after al-Qaeda. But I have to tell you that your strategy previously has been one that has been all over the map and is not designed to keep Americans safe or to build on the opportunities that exist in the Middle East.
I'm sorry. You actually, there was an effort on the part of the president to have a status of forces agreement, and I concurred in that and said that we should have some number of troops that stayed on. That was something I concurred with. That was your posture. That was my posture as well. You thought it should have been 5,000 troops. I thought it should have been more troops. But you know what? The answer was we got no troops through whatsoever.
This is just a few weeks ago that you indicated that we should still have troops in Iraq.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. That's it. I indicated that you failed to put in place a status of forces agreement at the end of the conflict that existed.
Governor, here's one thing I've learned as Commander-in-Chief. You've got to be clear, both to our allies and our enemies, about where you stand and what you mean. Now, you just gave a speech a few weeks ago in which you said we should still have troops in Iraq. That is not a recipe for making sure that we are taking advantage of the opportunities and meeting the challenges of the Middle East.
Syria plays an important role in the Middle East, particularly right now. Syria is Iran's only ally in the Arab world. It's their route to the sea. It's the route for them to arm Hezbollah in Lebanon, which threatens, of course, our ally Israel. And so seeing Syria remove Assad is a very high priority for us. Number two, seeing the replacement government being responsible people is critical for us. We should be playing the leadership role there, not on the ground with military.
Governor Romney's called for $5 trillion of tax cuts that he says he's going to pay for by closing deductions. Now, the math doesn't work, but he continues to claim that he's going to do it. He then wants to spend another $2 trillion on military spending that our military's not asking for.
Bob, I'm pleased that I balanced budgets. I was in the world of business for 25 years. If you didn't balance your budget, you went out of business. I went to the Olympics that was out of balance, and we got it on balance and made a success there. I had the chance to be governor of state 4 years in a row. Democrats and Republicans came together to balance the budget. We cut taxes 19 times, balanced our budget. The president hasn't balanced a budget yet. I expect to have the opportunity to do so myself.
All right.
I'm going to be able to balance the budget. Let's talk about military spending. And that's this.
About 30 seconds.
Our Navy is our Navy is smaller now than any time since 1917. The Navy said they needed 313 ships to carry out their mission. We're now down to 285. We're headed down to the low 200s if we go through with sequestration. That's unacceptable to me.
First of all, the sequester is not something that I proposed. It's something that Congress has proposed. It will not happen. The budget that we're talking about is not reducing our military spending. It's maintaining it. But I think Governor Romney maybe hasn't spent enough time looking at how our military works. You mentioned the Navy, for example, and that we have fewer ships than we did in 1916. Well, Governor, we also have fewer horses and bayonets because the nature of our military has changed. We have these things called aircraft carriers where planes land on them. We have these ships that go underwater, nuclear submarines. And so the question is not a game of battleship where we're counting ships. It's what are our capabilities? And so when I sit down with the Secretary of the Navy and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, we determine how are we going to be best able to meet all of our defense needs in a way that also keeps faith with our troops, that also makes sure that our veterans have the kind of support that they need when they come home. And that is not reflected in the kind of budget that you're putting forward because it just doesn't work.
After 3 presidential debates and a vice presidential debate, where do President Obama and Governor Mitt Romney stand in the race to the White House? Newsfirst Shamir Rasurdin, who has been following the race closely from New York since September, joins us now live via Skype for a comprehensive report.
The last presidential debate in 2012 focused on foreign policy issues that provide the biggest challenges to U.S. foreign policy during the next presidential term in office. Now, these issues included Syria, Iran, North Korea, Israel, China, Libya, and even Afghanistan. Foreign policy matters are always closely linked with national security in any discussion of U.S. international affairs. And the differences between the candidates on foreign policy issues are just as important as the differences in their approaches to domestic issues. Now, following 3 debates here in the United States with regard to the U.S. presidential race, Democratic President Barack Obama still appears to have the upper hand in the state-by-state fight to cobble together the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency in the November 6th election. However, Romney's recent surge in the polls after his strong performance in the first debate with Obama on October 3rd has propelled the Republicans into the lead or within striking distance in enough states to give him a reasonable chance of beating Obama to the finish line. Ohio, long seen as the key to unlocking the White House, looms large in every victory scenario for either candidate, particularly Romney. Until the last 2 weeks, polls did not show Romney with enough support in other states to give him a clear path, even if he won Ohio. Now, most national polls indicate that Obama and Romney are deadlocked. Now, in such a close race, any surprise development during the final 2 weeks could loom large. Now, who will it be? Will it be Obama or Romney? Now, Newsfirst, of course, will keep a close watch and report to you as and when developments do unfold. I'm Shamir Rasurdin reporting for Newsfirst from New York, USA.
The 90-minute debate was the last opportunity both candidates had to appeal to millions of voters in the U.S. with just 2 weeks left for the elections. With the 2 candidates sitting down for the third and final debate, Republican campaigners in Charlotte, North Carolina gathered at a local restaurant, while Democratic campaigners gathered at their campaign office to watch this high-stakes debate.
Campaign officers are playing a key role in keeping the campaign trail ablaze in North Carolina by trying to convince voters in this swing state for the 2012 U.S. presidential elections. That is why, with both candidates sitting down for the third presidential debate, Republican campaigners in Charlotte gathered at a local restaurant and Democratic campaigners gathered at their campaign office to watch this high-stake debate.
Obama is reverting to what he normally does, which is just to attack, say things aren't necessarily true, just to fire for effect, basically. He doesn't have a good command of the real facts, and he seems like he's hiding something. President
Obama is doing a great job. President Obama has always been strong with his foreign policy, and he's shown that with the connections that we've made abroad. And I don't think that Romney comes off as being very confident, or that he doesn't come off as being very well informed at this point.
Well, I think Governor Romney is explaining it well. He believes that in order to have a strong America, we need to have a strong economy. Because if we do not have a strong economy, how can we have the power to have a strong military and also exert our influence through both the global economy, through trade, through our corporations? And secondly, how can you trust a country that cannot control its own budget? If we're in debt, who would want to work with us, both from an international relations perspective and also through a business perspective?
So this is the foreign policy debate, and this is the president's territory, and he's translated this debate from the foreign policy angle to the economy and made the case for why investment in education is an investment in the future workforce, is good for competition with China, is good for our foreign policy in general. We've absolutely won this debate. I think this is hands down win for the president.
The three presidential debates of the U.S. presidential elections have come to a close. The two candidates were under immense pressure and under immense media attention since the 3rd of October, which was the day of the first debate. Since then, the two candidates have been preparing immensely for the debates. But now that the debates are over, what's in store for the two candidates? Well, it's obvious the two candidates will now be canvassing and campaigning extremely and intensely to sort of win over voters in swing states, undecided voters that really would matter in the last few weeks of this presidential elections. We, of course, have started our countdown for the November 6th elections, and we'll keep you fully updated with all the developments on the campaign trail up until election day in the United States. This is Mahina Bongso reporting with Ramesh Irugal Bandara from Charlotte, North Carolina.